Hey, doing well. Appreciate being here. Love to come and have the talks, the scoring, fight-score.com, the most comprehensive way to even score a fight. We need that out there more. So appreciate everyone who's dropping in to join us as we go through this scoring session. And I would say perfect timing for the subjects today, considering one of them was just inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame this weekend.
Oh, so that's a double anniversary. It's the anniversary of the actual fight itself as well. So
Yep.
yeah, good timing. I realised just then that my mic was muted when I did the intro, but never mind. If you missed that, but Alex can't be with us this week. But not to worry, we are continuing. We're holding the ship. Just myself and Joshua this week. Of course, we are here to watch and score a classic fight, a controversial fight from years gone by. Let me just put that volume down a little bit. Yeah, Tim Bradley versus Manny Pacquiao. I don't know if you've got a little bit of knowledge on this fight that you can wing an intro for us, Josh, shortly. I might put you on the spot there and do that. Because obviously Alex usually does our intros for us with his notes, but he's not here. So yeah, you could just give us a brief outline if you want, nothing too deep. But before we do go ahead and score that fight, please stick around. We will get to it pretty soon. But first of all, we'll have a discussion about the weekend's fights and other recent results that have happened as well. I'm just going to grab BoxRec because I need to refresh my memory. Was there anything last weekend that was... I don't think there was much last weekend, was there, that stood out?
Yeah, it was a pretty light weekend last weekend, or at least the one prior to this. No huge names. I need to look back myself. I believe it was Clarissa Shields versus Marcela Cornejo
Yeah.
or Cornejo or something of that nature.
Was she a
But
step in?
anyway, Clarissa Shields was dominant
Dominated.
in victory per usual, and it was a last minute fight for Cornejo, at least 2 weeks' notice, because of the fact that Hannah Gabriels ended up popping for a banned
Yeah,
substance,
that's
which
right.
she's put out a number of statements about relating it to something to do with her French bulldog puppies. But that being said, at the end of the day, she had this substance in her system. The fights didn't happen, so Cornejo was a last minute replacement who I knew would not offer up much for Clarissa Shields because there's just a high level of skills, a high level skill gap between the two of them, and we saw that in the contest in itself with Clarissa pretty much winning every round, and now looking to move on to her next big fight, which could ultimately be the winner of Savannah Marshall and Franchon Desern Cruz at 168 pounds for the undisputed titles there. And it would be Clarissa's second stint as 168-pound undisputed champion if she were to take on the winner of that fight and win. And that's highly likely because she fought both of them previously and she's beat both of them. But I think there would still be good fights for her.
Okay. Cool. Right. Well, that's good. That was from last week. And like I said, it was a pretty light weekend, wasn't it, last week in terms of big name boxing. So let's move on to this weekend. Recent results on Saturday in the UK at Wembley Arena. Sonny Edwards got a decision win, probably as expected there again against Andreas Campos. So he retains his title there, I believe. It looks like Ellis Scott got a win on as well under the card on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't see that, so we can't really talk too much about it. Over in the States, another one we'll just quickly touch on. Jaime Munguia got a decision win over Sergey Derevchenko. I think that might have actually been a controversial one. I think I saw some things on Twitter.
Apparently it was a majority decision, and there were some that felt that Munguia may have lost that contest. Now, I haven't seen it. I look forward to actually seeing it because I want to know how it went down. But I know coming into the contest, I didn't expect it to be a fight that Munguia would ultimately, I know, have controversy surrounding. I thought he would handle Derevianchenko, not easily, but I thought his size would be a major problem for Derevianchenko. And I'm guessing from the outlook and what I've seen and heard thus far, that was not the case. So very interesting for Jaime Munguia right there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to try and find out and watch it back as well. It'll be quite interesting to see how it went and how Mungia looked, and if there was a kind of a bit of a robbery going on there. I only saw one or two comments on the timeline. Obviously,
Hmm.
the big fight of the weekend. We'll touch on in a minute. Taylor and Lopez is the one that dominates the Twitter timelines. But I did notice
Hmm.
somewhere in there that there were some controversy about how it was scored and the victor. So I can also see that, mind you, that's DAZN on Twitter. They're always going to hype it. It just says it was a good fight basically from right from the start. So yeah, might be worth watching. Also, then, well, we'll just go over to the main event. Lopez versus Taylor. You watched this. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch it. Uh,
Yeah.
I've only seen some highlights on a video. I couldn't get the full fight, unfortunately. So just saw some highlights. Can you give us your thoughts and how it went and shock result possibly?
Yeah. It was for the Ring and WBO 140-pound world titles. The winner was going to become the lineal champion, or would be considered the lineal champion moving forward. Of course, beat the man to be the man, in a sense. And I know leading into the contest, all of us here sharing on this platform of fight night scores and scoring fights had Josh Taylor eking out a victory over Teofimo Lopez. This was the thought on paper, at least, heading into the contest. I really felt that Josh Taylor was a bit more battle tested and had a lot more in the tool shed in terms of that toughness and grittiness that would see him weather any storm and press Teofimo Lopez. And I wasn't sure of the state of Teofimo Lopez as far as since we last seen him, and essentially post Vasily Lomachenko, post that win, yeah, there have been some ups and downs with Teofimo Lopez without a doubt. So I thought Josh Taylor would have it all together, bounce back from that loss to Jack Catterall, which was controversial as well. But it turned out to be the opposite. It's actually, in my opinion, a dominant performance by Teofimo Lopez. He was able to pull off the victory, and I believe it was a unanimous decision victory, and pick up the titles. And he did so, I thought, in impressive fashion. And we saw a version of Teofimo Lopez that was similar to that which we had become accustomed to seeing when he fought Lomachenko, when he was knocking out guys prior to that. This explosive, athletic version of Teofimo Lopez, who was feeling good in the ring and was looking like he had no doubts about the potential outcome. In the case of Josh Taylor, I saw a guy that was almost a lost soul in there. He had a great first 3 rounds, or at least those were probably the most competitive rounds of the bunch, the first 3 rounds. And there was some filling out that was going on. But that being said, I thought the size of Taylor was pretty apparent there at the beginning. And I thought that the way that he was pressing Teofimo Lopez in the first 3 rounds was going to be something he'd be able to keep up with all night. But it turned out that wasn't the case. And from there, Josh Taylor essentially faded, and it looked as though, in my opinion, he had no answer for what Teofimo Lopez was offering. Now, Josh Taylor has been in there with a number of styles, so I didn't think the fact that Teofimo Lopez, being this explosive fighter, more athletic fighter, would be something that he wouldn't have been able to overcome. But he was not able to overcome what Teofimo Lopez was able to do, offering up a number of shots from the outside that were explosive, like lunging in with hooks that were landing super clean. And Josh Taylor, he just seemingly couldn't find a second gear. And the story of the fight was him essentially chasing Teofimo Lopez around, and he was getting hit with clean, big shots when he wasn't able to land anything of his own. And I just thought that it was a brilliant performance for Teofimo Lopez. He didn't back down. And for Josh Taylor, coming off the heels of that Jack Catterall loss, he's just in an interesting state. And I was talking about this with Boz on the podcast, the 86 Boxing version, Boxing Shit, when we were just over there. And I feel like Josh Taylor's pretty much in between a rock and a hard place in the sense that he is at 140. He just lost his first fight, and of course, the lineal title and the WBO title. He had been off for a good while. He probably struggles to make 140, and therefore 147 would be the next option. And him moving to 147 at this time is not going to be any easier, as we know there are a lot of tough dogs there at 147 pounds. And to think of him getting to title contention, it's just going to be tough for him to get there. So he's going to have to decide whether he's going to go up to 147 and take on these guys who are going to be tougher and harder punchers, or if he's going to stay at 140. If he's struggling with the weight, then that could be an issue. But 140 is getting an influx of competition as well. So very interesting spot for Josh Taylor. As for Teofimo Lopez, he's claimed he's retired, but I doubt it's true. But that being said, there's a full landscape of potential opponents for Teofimo Lopez. So he's back on top for the time being. At 140, he's right there in the mix. And I'm sure there are going to be a number of individuals calling him out. But I thought that he deservedly got the win in the contest. And for that matter, it was a pretty good fight, pretty solid fight. You had a lot of people tuning in and really were looking forward to it. Even some casual fans, just given that it was on regular ESPN as opposed to us having to pay some pay-per-view costs again, which these streaming services are doing now.
Well, that's good. Obviously, more eyes are better. So like I said, I only caught highlights. I did actually start watching a video of the whole fight, but then it must have got removed after a few rounds, so it stopped broadcasting. So I managed to see the first 4 rounds, which are competitive. And then, like I say, I ended up watching just a highlights video instead, and it seemed to be as the fight went on, it seemed to go more and more towards Lopez kind of being more dominant and stuff. So it sounds like it was a good display. We all picked Josh Taylor to win by points, and we was all wrong. And I think a lot of people were probably surprised and shocked by the display. And I guess it's a good result for Lopez. He's now the man at the weight division, and like you say, Taylor's got some decisions to make. So I just got up while you was talking there. I got up the combined scorecard on fight-score.com for that fight last night, because I noticed that there was some close scores by the officials there. So maybe they saw something a little bit more competitive than what the rest of the people scoring the fight did. So our fans scored it on average 117 to 112. That is with an even round in there. So, if you give that to Lopez, that's
very interesting. 9-3. Very interesting. I didn't expect the judges to have it so close. That being said, you never know with the judges, so it's best to continue to put your stamp on the actual contest throughout. Even in the 12th round, you got to give it a go. I feel Teofimo won that 12th round as well. But certainly these judges having it closer is very interesting. So I had it 111, 117 as well. 117, of course, being for Lopez. So I was on point with one of the judges, but I thought there were only probably 3 rounds you could offer up for Taylor in the contest. But,
again, if we look at the judge analysis as well, we've got their average. If we take their round by round majority, winner would come to 116, 112 if you take the scores that way. and they were unanimous in 8 rounds and split in 4 of them. And in
Mhm.
10 out of the 12 rounds, the judges and the fans had the same winner. So, and then also 8 out of 12 rounds where all the judges and the fans were unanimous in agreement for 8 out of 12 rounds. So that's 66.67%, which is not too bad,
Yeah.
fairly high. So yeah, pretty straightforward decision win. Not too much controversy about that. I guess maybe a couple of close scorecards, but yeah, good result. It'd be interesting to see what both boys do going forward. Hopefully, we're not seeing the last of Lopez because he's a great fighter to watch when he's in his rhythm and getting going. It'd be a shame if he decided to retire now, but I'm sure that won't be the case. So let's move things along. Was there anything on the undercard actually you wanted to discuss there, Josh? Sorry.
There were some other matches that were pretty decent from what I was able to catch. I'm trying to recall who
I'll
the
just get it up there on the screen for you now.
other
There's
ones were, but
LeBron versus
oh yeah,
Ramos.
Xander Zayas is one that I was
Oh,
thinking about. It was actually the co-main event. It's down there at the bottom, but he took on
yeah.
Ronald Cruz and Xander Zayas. He's one of these guys who he's really at the prospect stage, and this was him co-maining, and it was an 8 rounder. Ronald Cruz was one of those guys who came in. Of course, he had some skill to him, but Zayas had to do all of the leading for the most part, and there were moments where he was really going for it. He was trying to get him out of there. He was landing some snapping punches that were snapping Cruz's head back, but ultimately it went the distance. Now Zayas is highly regarded as a prospect. He's representing Puerto Rico, so he has the potential of being one of those next good to great Puerto Rican champions. He fights at 154 pounds, so we know that's a division that has a good deal of talent. And I think we could ultimately see him potentially being somewhere in title contention within the next 2 years. This was sort of a step up for him. Top Rank has been gradually moving him up. He turned pro at like 17 years of age, I believe. So he's just been going through that building process, and I'm sure we'll see more of him on the big stage moving forward. We also have Bruce Carrington. He was able to pick up a win. He's another promising Shushu Carrington. He's promising prospect coming up as well under that top ranked banner. And Robson Conceição was making his return against Nicholas Polanco in a fight that he seemed to be starting to lead, or he was going to be the guy that was taking the lead in it, but it ended early after an accidental headbutt left Polanco unable to fight, and this was about the second round. Though it was a headbutt that landed on the chin and jaw area, but apparently while in the corner, Polanco had mentioned that he couldn't see and some things of that nature. But then he said he wanted to fight, but ultimately the referee decided to stop it. So we didn't get much out of that contest in itself. I suppose we'll see Robson Conceição back in the mix very soon because there wasn't anything done damage wise. And he'll still be a player there at 130 and the potential opponent, I believe,
Hello,
for the winner
everybody.
of
James here, and for the
Oscar
fourth time,
Valdez
Shane
versus
Douglas is
Emmanuel
returning. We won't give
Navarrete,
him the
which is
big.
going to be happening at some point here within the next couple of months. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It didn't seem like this fight was so long ago, but 2012, why? My, how time flies. We're talking a decade ago, which is insane. And especially to think that, yeah, Pacquiao was talking about making a comeback here. So, very much interesting stuff. But yes, this was a contest where Timothy Bradley, I believe, if I'm reading things correctly, he was going to be making his first fight at 147 pounds, as a matter of fact. And in doing so, he was going to get an immediate title shot at the great Manny Pacquiao. So yes, this was indeed his first fight. June 6, 2012, as you mentioned. Now, Timothy Bradley, he had made his name at 140 pounds, and he is now a Hall of Famer, international boxing Hall of Famer as of this weekend. I think this is when the induction ceremony and everything was going down. But that being said, if you really look back at his record, he had some pretty impressive wins that got him up to the point of being able to fight for world titles and now ultimately becoming a Hall of Famer. Just think about this: at 140, he was on a pretty impressive run. He beat Junior Whittier over in Nottingham to actually pick up the one WBC World Super Lightweight title, and then just in an effort to speed up, he knocked off the likes of Edner Cherry, Kendall Holt, Nate Campbell, Lamont Peterson, Luis Carlos Abreu, Devin Alexander, and Joel Casamayor all prior to this contest with Manny Pacquiao. Now, those are some top level names right there, and
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive for Timothy Bradley. And he was one of those fighters who didn't have a lot of pop in his punches, but certainly had the type of grit and tenacity, along with his skill set, to be able to trouble pretty much anyone in the mix. So he was top rank at the time. Of course, we know that Manny Pacquiao was with top rank for a long period of time, and so logically, this was the fight that was ultimately made, and this was Timothy Bradley's first fight at 147 pounds, as mentioned. So, with that question of someone moving up, it's always going to be, how does he look? Does his power carry? In the case of Bradley not being a power puncher, that didn't matter as much. But that being said, how does everything translate to once you get to 147 pounds or you move up a division? And I think that this was going to be the ultimate test, in the sense that he was getting to test this out with the great Manny Pacquiao, who is undoubtedly one of the greats of this generation, without a doubt, one of those standout fighters. So this was an anticipated matchup. I'd imagine coming in. I don't recall fully, but I thought that. But I believe, if I remember correctly, a lot of people were going to be leaning Pacquiao coming into this contest, but felt that Bradley would certainly make it a fight. But a fight is what we got in some sense, so we'll see how ultimately ended up transpiring. And we know they went on to have a series of fights, with Manny Pacquiao being the last fight of Timothy Bradley's career as well. So we'll look forward to seeing how this fight went down, having not seen it since that time, which is now more than a decade ago. Crazy.
Yeah, man. Time flies. All right, thanks for that. Let's get started. For those that are joining us that have not done this before, we will be watching the fight. We'll be scoring as well at the same time using fight-score.com. I put a link in the video description, and also one in the chat if you're watching live. I've just posted it there. If you click through to that, you will get the scorecard. If you are a registered member, you'll also be able to join our scoring group, which usually there's instructions of how to do that on the screen, and I forgot to put that up. But yeah, if you go to groups, in fact I've got there you go, some instructions. Yeah, if you do groups and then it's not moving. Oh, never mind. If you register and you go to your groups section, you can go enter a code which is FS. I can't remember what it is now. Let's go to the instructions. There we go, FSYT22. If you entered that code, you'll come into our scoring group, which we use for these streams, and you'll be able to see everyone's scorecards for all the fights that they score, even the ones that we're not watching on the stream. So yeah, that's where we're at. hopefully we get some people that'll join in. And also, if you're not watching live, but in the future at some point, you can always go along as well. It still should be quite fun. All right, let's make a start. Hopefully you got your scorecard ready there, Josh, and we can.
Yep, pulling it up right now.
We can go at it. We should be straight into the action. Okay, there we go. So no Alex this week, so we're gonna have to fill in. He's the one that talks most.
Yeah, good to go. So as mentioned, this was a sort of anticipated matchup. As I mentioned, of course, we had Pacquiao, who is the champion. We know that he's one of the greats of this generation. But Timothy Bradley, he was stamping his claim in some sense as being one of those great fighters of this generation as well. And he's been rewarded with such with his Hall of Fame induction. So we knew that he would be game and bring it as far as trying his best to give whatever effort he could to defeat Manny Pacquiao. And Bradley was always an effort guy.
Yeah. I know. I can't remember at this stage of Pacquiao's career, because had he been campaigning at welterweight for a while at this stage, or?
Yeah, I think he actually had a number of fights in there at welterweight, and yeah, 2012. So yep, he had defeated Shane Mosley and of course Juan Manuel Marquez for a second time, or I think that might have been the third time actually. Yeah, he was coming off of wins over guys like Joshua Clottey, etc. So he had actually went up to 154, or at least a catch weight, and taken on Margarito prior to this as well.
Right. Okay.
But certainly 147 was his pretty much full-time weight at this point.
Yeah. So good start for Bradley there. He's kind of coming forward.
Yeah, Bradley aggressive in this fight, this contest, not letting the moment be too big for him. To start out, at least. With Pacquiao, sometimes he'll come out gunning. Other times, he'll kind of temper things a slight bit.
Mm-hmm. Just add a bit of volume.
Close first round. Neither guy really wanted to back down in a sense. Seemed like Pacquiao was more accurate, but that being said, Bradley had his moments as well where he's landed some things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fairly tough one to score, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
I think at the start, Pacquiao started a bit quicker. Bradley got the middle of the round. He landed a bit, and then at the end, Pacquiao had a good spell near the end there.
Yeah, very close one right there. And from the looks of things, this was an HBO broadcast. Of course, we know that they are no longer carrying boxing, but they used to be, of course, the premier, I guess, premium channel for boxing.
Yeah.
They had guys like Pacquiao and I guess Top Rank Promotions on deals. But of course, Showtime has taken that over now.
Yeah, they were the gold standard, weren't they?
Indeed. Looks like Letterman gave Pacquiao that first round probably for the same reason I did. He had a little bit more activity than Bradley. And Bradley's had moments, of course, with Pacquiao. He wasn't shy about starting things out on the offensive without a doubt. He just landed a nice left straight. Yeah, that's a good point to mention that Manny Pacquiao, of course, is a southpaw, and this is an orthodox fighter, that being Timothy Bradley. But of course, even from a competition perspective, both of them saw a lot of guys. I believe Devin Alexander is actually a southpaw as well, and Bradley was able to handle him. So it just made for an interesting matchup. And I like what we saw. It happened several seconds back, but when the two were tied up, Bradley kept throwing shots,
Yeah,
and
always that.
I'm always one who would encourage that until the referee gets in there. If you have an arm free, then hey,
Wing
do
away.
what you got to do.
Yeah, we're over halfway through the round now. I think Bradley's having the better round so far.
Hmm.
Oh, he's no messing.
Yeah, and we're seeing some aggression from
Aggression,
Bradley.
yeah. Yeah, he's landing quite well.
Right now, the fight is playing out in the middle of the ring, so I think that is good for Bradley, definitely, because you don't want to get caught on the ropes with a guy like Pacquiao who can throw a lot of punches offensively. So I think he's doing good by keeping it in the center of the ring, or at least trying.
Yeah.
Pacquiao seemingly respecting what is coming from Bradley a bit more in this round as he kind of slowed down his pace as well.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush. Good round, but I thought that Pacquiao had, Timothy Bradley rather, had the better moments of that round for sure.
Yeah, he was pressing the action. He was on the front foot. He was chasing Pacquiao, and he was throwing some proper power shots in there. It was a decent round hot.
Yeah. Thus far, nothing major or significant landed from either fighter that seemingly had the other guy hurt. Some things are slipping in there, but both seem to be taking the punches fairly well thus far.
Yeah. All right, round 3. Let's go.
And this fight was going down at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
So Lederman there's got another round there to Pacquiao.
Mm. Interesting.
I think you were talking about Bradley fighting southpaws. Didn't he fight and beat Junior Witter? He was
Yep.
unorthodox.
That's how he won his first world title.
It's a title
Went
fight,
to traveled overseas to defeat Junior Witter.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah, Witter was a pretty solid fighter, so Bradley was in what to quote unquote enemy territory, but he was able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think we had a bit of a spell over it. You know, we had a couple of world champions, and I think it happened a few times where American come over, dethroned our champion around that time.
Pacquiao taking a more measured approach to throwing his left now. He landed two good left hands, but there goes another one that's slipping in. That straight left is slipping in. He's being very measured with it, making sure that it comes behind the jab, and Bradley isn't seeing that shot right now, it seems. As they say, the fundamental way is through the jab. Referee for the contest, Robert Bird.
Mm-hmm. That was a good shot by Pacquiao. Let's say
Yeah,
just
that left
prior,
is slipping in.
yeah, just prior to that, he was kind of just out of rate. Just missing, weren't he? Always coming up short. Boz in the chat there saying Bradley had the hand speed and athleticism to compete with Pac-Man. He's doing a good job so
There.
far.
Yeah, good point there, Boz. He does have that type of build to him, and of course he has some athleticism to him. Right now, Pacquiao, even being the older fighter, showing his usefulness. He's dug back or reached back into the well, the fountain of youth. But I think he definitely took that round, had more activity, and that left hand was finding the way in.
Yeah, he finished strong there. Pacquiao, I gave him that round as well.
Joel Diaz in the corner of Timothy Bradley, and of course for Manny Pacquiao, the great Freddie Roach.
Mm-hmm. Hello to Beagle. He's just joined in the chat, late for school again. Not to worry, you've made it. Thanks for stopping by.
And Boz had it even going into that third round,
which
I was on the same page.
Oh, good shot. Getting a little bit scrappy.
Yeah, seems that both are warmed up. Both aren't afraid of what's coming right now, and both are trying to throw their best power punches. Nice left that was slipped in by Pacquiao in that exchange.
Alex Vega in the chat. Let's go, Bradley. Hopefully your internet's intact for you to watch the rest of the fight with us.
Salute to the big fish, Alex Vega. Both guys seem to want to go punch for punch, and they have that sort of mentality of trying to be the guy out front with the exchanges. As you can see, they're going tit for tat, punch for punch.
Yeah, it's the styles are gelling well, aren't they? It's a decent fight to watch. Good action. Some good shots by Pacquiao there.
Yeah. Pacquiao still had this sort of blistering hand speed, even for his age. Now, not all of those are landing, but it's doing enough to trouble Bradley in a
Yeah,
way that
it's
some of those are slipping in, and the judges probably can't tell if they're not landing
exactly yeah.
as much as we can from the broadcast.
Yeah, for the last 45 seconds or so, Bradley's not thrown a punch or landed one.
Yeah, the overall activity has been with Pacquiao, though Bradley has had his moments as well. But the activity, just overall, in terms of volume, is definitely with Pacquiao.
Wow, some big shots, winging in
London
there.
Holliters. That was a good round.
Excellent
Good
round.
action from both right there. Though Pacquiao was certainly the busier fighter, and I think that's kind of the story of things thus far. Bradley is right there, but Pacquiao's a little bit busier.
Yeah, that was definitely the most convincing round so far. I thought it was pretty dominant. We'll take a pause in a moment. Just getting the scores in.
And Alex Vega says Pacquiao was coming off another controversial decision, winning versus Juan Manuel Marquez in their third matchup.
Yes,
Yes, that is correct.
you touched on that, didn't you, in the intro? So it was the third bout.
Yeah, yeah, it was the third. Yeah, yeah, and I remember that was fairly close. And yeah, there were many, and I believe myself included at the time, who thought that Manuel Marquez edged Pacquiao out in that third contest.
All right, I've got up our scorecard comparison between yourself and me.
Let's
I'm on the
do
left. I'm on the left, and Josh is on the right. So, excuse me. We had a difference of opinion for that first round. We did say it was very close. It could have gone either way. I gave that one to Bradley. I thought his work was slightly cleaner. You gave Pacquiao. He's a little bit more active. I'd say both are valid. We both scored to Bradley round 2. And then in round 3, we both gave it to Pacquiao, and round 4, we gave it to Pacquiao as well. So I've got it even after 4. You've got it 3-1 for Pacquiao. And there we go. We're not very matching at the moment, which is fine. It's good.
Still close. Still close.
It's close.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Back to the fight.
This is the type of fight where you can see that the momentum is likely to swing at varying points. You could argue the more cleaner shots are coming from Bradley, but the volume is with Pacquiao. So even with that, there was probably about 8 punches thrown. Not all of them landed, but certainly a couple of them slipped in there. And Big Fish Vega mentions this was Bradley's second fight with top rank, coming off a stoppage of Joel Casamayor at 140 pounds. But yes, first fight at 147 so far, looking pretty good as far as the weight on Timothy Bradley.
Quick reminder as well, if you're here watching, you're enjoying, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already done so. That would help us.
Indeed. Correction there, and I saw that name, and I did think that that was at 147, his first foray up there, but I couldn't remember for sure off top. But thanks, Big Fish Vega, pointing out This wasn't Bradley's first fight at 147. He had to defeat Luis Carlos Abreu at 147 pounds. So that is the case. That slipped my mind, but it had come across my mind whether that was the case at one point.
Was
That
that
Vega, good
was
stuff.
was that immediately before this match, or had he gone up and then back down and come back up
I
again?
think he went back down
Right.
before going back up again. So he tested the waters with Abreu, who was undefeated at the time.
You don't see that often, do you? Apart from Canelo.
Oh yeah. And Vega mentions Abreu went on to knock out Thomas Delorme, taking his undefeated record. Delorme, Puerto Rican fighter, Been in there with a lot of top competition.
Bit of a quieter round of this one.
Yeah, Bradley seems to be working towards slowing the pace of the fight, and so you can have those moments of lull if Pacquiao's not throwing offensively, which he doesn't want to get a bit too reckless in there. So Bradley's trying to take more of the fight's control and slow down the pace, which I think isn't a bad thing. So in between some of the brilliance that we see from Manny Pacquiao, there is a lot of missing that goes on as well with some of his shots thrown. You could almost say recklessly, but
It's another good round there for Pacquiao.
mhm.
Just winging away to close out the round. I think they're both trying to steal this one, aren't they?
Yeah, Bradley slipping in some pretty good solid shots as well. Yeah, very very good one. Neither guy backing down at the end. I like that.
Gotta get in the plug some of their programming.
And I see Boz in the chat mentions Abreu got knocked out by Saddam Ali. You know, Saddam Ali, former 154-pound champion as well, of course. And then Vega mentions he went back down to 140 for two fights, one being technical decision over undefeated 23-year-old Devin Alexander. Yep, yep. And Saddam Ali did beat the brakes off of Abreu.
He also beat Miguel Cotto. I remember that. An upsetting one, that.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if that was the time Saddam Ali. I feel like he was doing self promotion. He was his own promoter,
Oh, okay.
if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe you know that Alex is.
Then Munguia beat the brakes off Ali.
He did. Mandia did. He's just too big, too strong with that youth for Ali. Pace has slowed down a bit. As mentioned, Bradley, we started to see in that last round start to slow things down pace wise, still keeping things in the middle of the ring. Manny Pacquiao isn't throwing as many shots now as he was in those first few rounds as well. So you'd have to think that slower pace favors Bradley, who is starting to land some pretty good shots right here from a technical standpoint on Pacquiao.
Yeah, it looks like he's kind of controlling the rhythm a bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
Pacquiao isn't as energetic as we're accustomed to seeing him. Definitely favours Bradley this kind of
Yep.
action.
I like the fact that Bradley's not forgetting that jab. He's using that to make sure that Pacquiao respects him as he's looking to get in there and let off a flurry. Bradley actually working well off the back foot. You know, some fighters struggle more when they're backed up, but Bradley is the type that, interestingly enough, he can work pretty decently off the back foot as well as leading and being on the front foot, which we saw in some fights, especially, for instance, the fight with Devin Alexander, where Devin Alexander was a bit reluctant to exchange, so Bradley had to take the lead in that contest.
Pacquiao came alive there a bit, and with a minute to go.
Alex Vega mentions Bradley has such a unique style. He will press forward and land hard right hands, but isn't known for having punching power. Yeah, no doubt. I was mentioning that. Yeah, definitely not a guy who has that type of pop, but certainly, he can get you with nutrition for sure. He's one of those guys that keeps coming all rounds.
Yeah, and Boss says there as well, Bradley had some pop, but no real power. Kind of reminds me a little bit like Chris Eubank Jr. He's like that. He looks like he digs in and throws some pretty mean shots, but doesn't really have the one punch knockout kind of power.
Yeah, yeah. Some guys can have that look, and then Bradley, of course, he had that look. You could tell he was always in shape. Looked like he was a strong guy for sure, but yeah, not that type of power that translated over to knockouts in the boxing world.
Uh-huh. Alex there saying Bradley is making Pacquiao miss and pay him with single counters.
So
Commentaries
Harold
ignoring
Letterman hasn't given Bradley a round. Wow. Harold Letterman. Gotta love him.
6-0 to Pacquiao. Wow.
Well, we know Pacquiao, he was this mega star, so certainly it's easy to look at Pacquiao in a lens in which, you just see him as this fighter who not many could beat at that particular point.
Yeah.
And of course, we were thinking we were going to get Mayweather versus Pacquiao this year, and that didn't happen.
Some good shots. Minute gone in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, a minute and a half. Into the second half of the round.
Yeah, I still feel like Bradley has ceased control in terms of the fight is being fought at his pace, and I feel like he has the momentum at the moment. Pacquiao still throwing, of course, but Bradley looks fairly comfortable where he is in this contest thus far.
Oh, some good shots landing. I mean, Manny's Pacquiao's throwing a lot, missing a lot as well, though. Bradley's,
Yeah,
for the
the
most
cleaner
part, he's
punches are coming
landed.
from Bradley.
Yeah. That's a nice body shot.
Yeah, Pacquiao landed a couple of good lefts right there. When Timothy Bradley decides to try and do his head movement defense with his hands down, I don't think it quite bodes well for him. But that being said, he is comfortable in there. You can tell right about now.
Just, you see that stat that came up then about punches landed? 27 for Pacquiao and 9 for Bradley.
Yeah, no
Not
way.
sure if that...
This is counter to CompuBox. This is why we know it's not fully accurate, because looking at that, it's hard to see that Pacquiao landed that many punches with the amount of
Yeah.
misses that we can see here from the broadcast or watching it as a viewer. That was a very close round right there.
It was close, yeah. It's one of those, what do you prefer? Like someone that's kind of throwing more, maybe missing more, or someone that's countering, landing a bit nicer?
Yeah, as mentioned, I think that Pacquiao has certainly been the busier fighter, but as far as what's landing, yeah, that's a big if. It's in terms of what CompuBox is tracking there, but I don't know. Some of them are glancing blows that kind of roll off of Bradley, so I don't know if they're counting those or what, but very
Yeah.
interesting. I agree with Alex who mentions Bradley has to use his legs more. Yeah, he's better suited using that form of a defensive tactic where he's kind of backing out of there, stepping around Pacquiao as opposed to kind of standing there trying to bob and weave with his
Yeah.
hands down. Which Bradley, he's not known to be a truly defensive fighter in that sense. But that being said, he's fundamentally sound enough to be able to adapt and do what needs to be done defensively.
Beagle says there he'd missed this fight live. Must have been on an expensive pay per view.
Yeah.
I guess Manny Pacquiao back then he was prime time. Probably was an expensive one, wasn't it? Even 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Bradley trying to wing that one in then.
Yeah. You're seeing some ebbs and flows. Vega mentions this pay per view sold like 900K. That's very solid right there. Yeah, Pacquiao had that type of buying power, so certainly Pacquiao was still in that sort of mega star territory at
Yeah.
this point. He had rose to become, a household name in some sense. I think we start to see some fatigue setting in on
Yes.
both fighters. Bradley for sure there. He slowed down a little bit.
Bradley had an iron chin, says Boss. Yeah, he became known for that, didn't he? Definitely could take a shot.
Mm-hmm. Another close round right
Yeah,
there.
tough one. Man, that's a tough round to score.
Yeah.
Alex, how did you score that one? And Boz.
Yeah, that was a very tough one.
We'll take a pause in a moment and we'll have a look how we're doing.
Good to go.
Come on, Boz, get your score in. I'm refreshing. We'll do a combined. So the combined scorecard then, and we'll do a comparison again later on. Let's just scroll to. There we go, round 8. From round 4, round 5, Pacquiao. Round 6, Bradley. Round 7, Bradley. Round 8, even.
Yeah, that eighth was a very close one. I must admit, very close. Razor edge.
Let's
Bob
continue.
says Letterman was one crappy scorer. He's definitely making a case for such in this fight thus far.
going.
Beagle says, didn't Bradley lapse into a brief coma post one fight, or am I senile? I don't recall
I don't
Bradley
I don't remember that.
being in that situation. But maybe I'm senile as well.
Tagalog. That is the national language of the Philippines.
Yep.
But each province has their own dialects. There's lots of different languages in the Philippines.
Oh yeah, I've heard there are several, several different dialects.
Oh, was he? Was that a trip over legs? Or?
Yeah, looked more like a trip. Bradley had tripped earlier in the fight as well.
It
Kind of
almost looked like he was
twisted his
dazed,
ankle.
but I think it was just a trip.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more livelier this round.
Yep.
They're in
Pacquiao came
close.
out a bit more aggressive.
That's nice. That's nice work by Pacquiao. Oh, standing and trading.
Got some big shots.
Some solid shots landed there. He's landing a lot more now, Pacquiao. Bradley
Yeah,
missing.
he is. Those are some clean shots, but yeah, as it was mentioned, I think by Bob, yeah, Bradley has an iron chin for sure. He's taking them fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, Pacquiao, even up at this weight, was still a bit of a monster puncher, wasn't he? Carried him up in weights. That's a much better round for Pacquiao.
Yeah, very active in this round, and a lot of shots have slipped in. Bradley back pressing now.
Caught an uppercut and a left. Alright, Bosnell's he's finally got his score in 77-75 to Pacquiao. Good round,
Very
that.
good round for Pacquiao right there.
Good action.
Yeah, considering it's the ninth round, yeah, very good round. A lot of active action from the two.
I'm just waiting for Lederman to score that one for Bradley.
Yeah, right. So far, still a fairly close fight. It looks like it's one where the momentum could shift and swing at any point. So for Bradley, I think he's going to need to pick up his activity a bit more here in these last several rounds just to make sure that he's giving the judges enough to warrant giving them the score with Pacquiao coming with a higher output.
9 rounds to 0.
9 rounds to no. Okay, Chip. I think that Letterman seems to be in love with the activity of Pacquiao. regardless of whether the shots are landing, just the volume. He's, I guess, a fan of.
Yeah.
Bradley boxing well here.
9-0 some kind of joke. You'd think so. We're seeing a competitive fight here.
Yeah, right. See, when Bradley's fighting like this, where he's moving and he's on the back foot and he's just being aware as far as making sure that Pacquiao doesn't get a chance to set his feet for his punches, I think just shows Bradley's strong suit against Pacquiao here. He's got to have more of that movement, that footwork, because he can move fairly well when he chooses to do so.
Yeah. It's another one where the action's dipped a little bit, hasn't it? Both taking a bit of a breather. Probably another one where they'll try and win it in the last 30 seconds.
And it's beneficial that when he moves, Bradley, that is, that movement to the left keeps him away from Pacquiao's strong left himself, being the southpaw. So that's why we're seeing success from Bradley in this round. Definitely on the boxing front, using that jab, just kind of pot shotting, picking off Pacquiao. Bradley not giving him those opportunities for those flurries, which could sway the judges. Pacquiao, he can get in a flurry at any particular time, rattling off 7, 8 punches.
And like you say, it might not always land. It looks good though. Judges go for it.
Yeah.
That was a pretty tough one as well to score.
As far as who was controlling it, looked to be Bradley. He seemed to control the action in that one. Pacquiao wasn't stepping in and throwing as much as he had been over the past couple of rounds. So a good way to shift things and sway things back his way there, Bradley, in my opinion, for that one.
Chat is slow as slug. Might be having some technical
Might be
issues.
YouTube there. That's probably YouTube's issue. Into the championship rounds.
Oh wow, Letterman's giving Bradley a round.
For the first time in the fight. Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah. Last two then. Championship rounds, like you just said. So just for some figures, I've got Pacquiao ahead by a single point. I've got it 95-96, and that's because I snuck in an even round. So that's 5-4 and 1 even.
Oh, yeah. Bradley on the front foot in this one. I think he senses the urgency in some sense. At the very least, thinking, okay, I need to close this thing out strong. There's no doubt about it. When you think about that whole A side, B side discussion, Pacquiao at this point, he's the man. And I like the fact that Bradley isn't reckless with his aggression. He is pretty measured and controlled in there, even when he's on the offensive.
Yeah, everything's like calculated, isn't it? It looks like there is some issues with the chat box thing, because it does say disconnected. It's done that a few times.
Hmm. See, this is a perfect example, sort of like the last round. The movement of Bradley is giving Pacquiao trouble. He's not able to get off those flurries, as mentioned. I think that's key. And some great work here on the defensive end by Pacquiao. He's doing it by virtue of his footwork. He's never neglecting it, or by Bradley, I'm not, rather, but Bradley's never neglecting that jab, which is also that good measuring stick for keeping that distance and timing down on Pacquiao. So this version of Bradley certainly troubles him, and this is not unlike a Juan Manuel Marquez, who is more of a counterpuncher in a
Yeah.
sense and can move at times when he needs to. Certainly on the rebound, yeah, that gives Pacquiao some trouble. I thought another good round from Bradley, to be honest.
Yeah, that evens it all up for me. Winner take all, final round. What's your score now, Josh?
So looks like I have it. Ooh, this is gonna be interesting.
Oh,
I have
you
it.
can keep it a secret if you want till the end. That's fine.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We'll see.
We'll do a big reveal of your score after.
It's gonna be interesting. We'll see how this last round goes.
So Boz is in line with me, 95 each. Well, I've scored the next round as well, so maybe he sent that a little bit ago, and the chat is slow to send it.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I guess that's what you were referring to before.
All right, we're in the 12th and final round of the contest. Yeah, I think that Harold Letterman is sliding Bradley, man, heavily.
I mean, if you're the cornermen, for both of them, they're probably thinking it's a close fight. They've not
Yeah,
exactly come out, flying, have they, to get the round one.
yeah, I would think so as well. Uh, I could see each being sort of confident and comfortable, thinking that they are ahead. But that being said, it's so hard to really say definitively, given that judges see things differently. But I do think these last three rounds, this included, Bradley seems to have shifted momentum back into his favor in making it more of a tactical contest, and therefore Pacquiao's output has dropped.
Yeah, that's a nice little combination there.
Yeah. I think with the lower output, you see the cleaner punches coming from
From
Bradley.
Bradley, yeah.
So maybe some urgency there from Bradley's side. All right. All right. Good one. That was actually a good contest.
Yeah, it was. That was a fun fight to watch. Good contest. Pretty close.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
So, let's see. Complete that. Don't forget, folks, when you save your scorecard at the end, there's a little tweet button if you're a Twitter person. Make sure you tweet your scorecards. It lets people see your scores. It makes people more aware of our system. And they might go, oh, that's good. I'll use it. So I'm going to guess that it's going to take a while for him to top up these scores.
All right.
119, 109 for Lederman.
119, 109. Holy crap. What the heck was Letterman watching? I mean,
A different fight to what we was. One
only
round.
gave Bradley one round. Like, what the heck? That's insane. No freaking way.
That's got to be the reason why this has been deemed so controversial. It's got to be on it.
Yeah, you can imagine some people seeing that scorecard, and especially having not watched the fight, or if you say you watch highlights or something, you think that that Pacquiao just dominated Bradley. It definitely was not the case.
I'm going to forward it on a bit.
Vod says it looks like Manny ran out of steam. I'd agree. There at the tail end, I gave those last 3 rounds to Bradley because I felt Manny dropped off and Bradley was controlling the pace and action.
Right, let's listen to these.
Jerry Roth scores about 115, 113 for Pacquiao. CJ Ross scores it 115, 113 for Bradley. And Dwayne Ford scores it 115, 113 to the winner by split decision. And new WBO welterweight champion of the world, the Desert Storm.
Pacquiao don't look too upset about that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're blind. I think
Here we go.
Letterman is the best scorer alive, and I think that is a terrible, bogus decision.
Hey, yeah, and
Bogus decision.
Dumbfounded. I don't know what to say. I mean, just when they started off the 115 and 113.
so it ended up being a split decision.
I have no comment. I'm totally confused.
I'm as confused
But I
as
don't think it was a
anyone.
robbery as some have claimed, especially going back and just seeing this and scoring it. I thought it was a very close fight where some rounds could have swung either way. So I
Definitely, yeah.
honestly see it having potential of having gone either way. But Bradley winning, I don't think was far fetched.
No, definitely not. I, in fact, had him winning at the end on my scorecard. So let's just take a pause with that one. And we will grab our final scores side by side. We've got buzzers up there as well on screen. So I had it 115, 114. I had that even round in there. Boz had it 115 and 113. And you had it a draw, 114 all.
The draw.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yes, yes.
So let's go and have a look. We've got quite a lot of differences of opinion. I think this is a good reflection of this fight.
Mm-hmm.
We both got similar scorecards, but in completely different ways. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds there where we had different winners of the round. We had 0 unanimous matching. Oh, that's where you get all 3 exactly the same. So we had 8 out of 12 rounds where we scored it the same. So yeah, that's the 4 differences of the 4 red boxes. But I mean, look at the percentages there. It was a really close fight. A lot of the rounds were really close.
Oh yeah.
And they could have gone either way. So yeah, I had an even round.
So we had no matching round. Interesting.
Yeah, where we get all 3
Yeah.
metrics the same. That's not quite there. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it was all that controversial. I think the only reason is purely because of that Letterman scorecard and his colleague announcers agreeing with him and then telling everyone that was a bad decision.
Yeah, I agree. That's where the controversy seemingly came right there, because to say that Bradley only won one round, that's insane. It is definitely a completely different fight than what we saw.
Yeah, I just done a comparison with Buzz's card and mine just to see how we align. Again, we had 3 differences in for 3 rounds, and yet we came to almost the same
Yeah.
score. So yeah, man. I mean, definitely a good fight. Fun one to recap and rewatch. It was not a robbery. It wasn't a bogus decision, as they alluded to on the commentary. And yeah, man, Tim Bradley, good show, good performance. Can't complain about that one.
No. It's hey, comes with the territory in terms of boxing. You're gonna have those scores that some consider controversial. You're gonna have those that were close and varied in any way. But I think this just kind of is one of those examples that you can't always say it went definitive in either way. I mean, yeah, there are cases that could be made on both fronts on who won this. So I definitely don't think it was a robbery with Bradley winning, because I know that there were a couple of those rounds where I thought I could have legitimately changed it to Bradley, and ultimately that would have shifted it, and I would have had him winning. So
Yeah,
good fight, good matchup between the two styles, at least in that first fight.
yeah, definitely. I can't remember if the second one was also controversial. Because they had 3 fights, didn't they? They had a trilogy.
Yeah, 3 fights. I don't remember if the second one was controversial or not either. I don't feel it was. I do know. I do know that the third one, it was a clear Pacquiao win for sure.
Right. Okay.
From what I recall.
Whether we'll cover them at some point, I'm not too sure. But that was a fun one to watch. Unfortunately, Alex couldn't be here to score it with us, but nonetheless, he will be in future for our upcoming streams, and I'm not sure. I'm sure he's got some planned for the next couple of weeks, so we will be posting those up on Twitter. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel and ring the bell so you know that when we got a live stream planned. Right, okay, let's move things along now. I have no idea what's coming up, to be honest, in the next couple of weeks. I'm very unprepared for today's show. I've just done a filter on BoxRec schedule to see the 3+ star fights for the next upcoming weeks. There's what does that take us to? June 16th.
June 17th.
Next week. 17th is next Saturday, and then the 24th. So we'll go up to those. Adam Azim in action on Sky.
Oh yeah, I saw that announced. Yeah, that should be a good contest. There's
Okay.
one guy he's taking on 22-1, so it should be interesting. But yeah, Azim, yeah, he looks pretty good, so it should be a pretty decent fight.
Looks good on paper, but exclusively fought in Ukraine and then Germany.
Yeah. Speed.
Looks like he lacks power, 22 and
Oh
4
yeah.
KOs, so probably just a
Yeah.
nicely matched opponent for Azim to look good against.
Good to go. Yeah.
Caroline Dubois also on that one.
Okay. She's on her run. Okay. Already 6 fights in.
Yeah,
Good to go.
racking them up. So the Saturday 17th. What's this one then? Welterweight Shakram Yasyov. I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce that. Against Harold
Yes.
Calderon.
Yeah. I don't know if I know Calderon, but 13-0, 27-0 on paper, it looks like it might be a good one. I remember Giasov. I can't remember where he's from, if he's Ukrainian or
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Uzbek. Yeah. So yeah, he's a pretty solid fighter. Uh,
I
and I
guess
think
Regis Progress is going to be the main one there. Sorry, because that one was at the top. I was thinking that was the main event, but I just realised.
no, yeah, Regis is
it's
the main
the
event.
main event for this one.
This is a return to New Orleans for a big matchup, a big time boxing match.
Okay.
For Regis Prograde. I actually went to New Orleans back in 2018 and saw him fight. I forget who he took on, but that being said, it was a good atmosphere and environment for sure. Very
Okay.
good environment.
And do we know anything of Zorilla?
I don't know Zorilla.
Puerto
The name
Rican.
seems slightly familiar. That being said, this
Lost.
is sort of a bounce back for. Okay, so Rilla's been in there with Arnold Barboza. So,
Barbosa,
okay,
yeah.
that's where I may have seen his name from. And Barboza is very solid, 140 pounder. So we know that Prograis is coming off that victory over Jose Zapata, which is a great win
Yeah,
for
good
him.
win. Very good win.
And so we'll get to see what he looks like in his first matchup under the Matchroom banner.
Yeah.
So that's the significance of this.
Alright, that'll be an interesting one. Okay. We've also got one in Australia there. Sam Goodman versus Rais Ali.
Oh yeah. Rais Alim. I know Alim. This should be Goodman, the name I'm familiar with, but Rais Alim, he's a very solid technical fighter. He's had some good wins. He fought on Showtime a number of times. I remember he beat a guy from here, Marcus Dream Custer Bates, not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, and this should be a good matchup. I don't know a lot about Goodman, but I know as far as what Alim's capable of, he's a very good, sound and technical boxer, and he's shown some promise. So this should be a good one, depending on how it ultimately pans out.
I'm guessing that's an undercard fight, and Tim Tszyu is actually the main.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Tim Tszyu making his return since picking up that victory over
Tony Harrison. Yeah.
Tony Harrison in pretty impressive fashion as well. So Tim Tszyu taking on Carlos Ocampo, and Ocampo, he was first known for his fight with Errol Spence, where Errol Spence beat him quickly in first round stoppage, I
First
believe.
round,
But
yeah.
Ocampo, he actually fought recently in a very good, very tough fight that he gave to, Sebastian Fundora. Yeah, he gave Fundora a very tough fight, and so he kind of rebounded since that loss to Spence, and 154 seems to suit him better weight wise. So this might be a pretty good one. I
Yeah.
do favor Tim Tszyu, of course, but
Yeah.
that being said, Ocampo, I think there's more to him than what initially met the eye when we saw him in there with Errol Spence.
With Spence, yeah. It looks like he had a good bounce back of fights in Mexico. Wrapped up some wins and then came back up to North America. Ultimately losing against Fundora. Probably one of those guys that loses against the top guys. So I guess it'll be a good test for Tim Tszyu, see where he's at.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Tim Tszyu. So we want Tim Tszyu versus Jermell Charlo. That's still straight away from us thus far. As Jermell, I guess he's still kind of recovering. We may see him in here soon.
Yeah, what else have we got then? Joshua Franco versus Kazuto Ioka. That is in
fight.
Japan.
Good fight. Joshua Franco, he's making a return, taking on Ioka, who was a pretty solid boxer. I can't remember who knocked off Ioka, but someone knocked off Ioka previously in a world title fight, I think, or something of that nature. But um,
So, all right, okay. So it's a rematch. They
oh, they drew.
had a
Okay,
draw
cool.
previously.
Donnie
Donny
Nietes. So
Nietes.
yeah, he didn't get knocked off. As a matter of fact, I remember him beating Donnie Nietes without a doubt. So yeah, I'm thinking of something. Oh yeah, he had a win over Tanaka. So hey, Ioka, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, looks like it's been in some good names.
So I was thinking of someone else. So he had a draw with Franco. I think there was some controversy surrounding that or something, but
Right.
I don't remember fully. But I like Joshua Franco as well, gritty fighter. He's technically sound. Been in there with some pretty decent competition.
Oh yeah, Andrew
So
Blanco.
he should make for a pretty good fight in this rematch. So we'll see how it goes. Looks like the WBA World Super Flyweight title is on the line at this point.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on from that one, and then also that night, Edgar Berlanga is in action against Jason Quigley.
Yeah, so Berlanga first matchup with Matchroom Boxing. Of
The zone.
course, he's coming off of a win, though he didn't look too good in that win against uh,
What's
dang, I want to say a
from?
Bray. I looked up his name earlier. I can't think of it, but it's a Colombian fighter. Yeah, Angulo. Yeah,
Angola.
Alexis Angulo. I think he's Colombian or either that or Venezuelan. But anyway, yeah, Berlanga. He's had a hot streak starting out his career. I think he racked up 16
16 and
first
0
round
with
knockouts.
knockouts. Yeah, and then
Yeah, and he's gone the distance in all fights since then.
since
His
then,
last four or five, or like last four, I believe.
last four. Yeah.
And
So I guess he's lost a little bit of steam in that sense, hasn't he? He was like this big knockout
yeah,
artist, and then
as the competition has gone up, he's been forced to box more. So they've been trying to work with him to get him back on that fundamental front. So we'll see how he looks against Jason Quigley, who lost to Demetrius Andrade not too long ago in a contest at 160. But that being said, Quigley is I'd imagine going to kind of work his way into there to really uh, test Berlanga. I think he's skilled enough to be able to give Berlanga some form of a test.
yeah,
And despite what happened in the Andre fight, I think he can hold up fairly well, depending on what Berlanga looks like. So that's the big question. So it's a hard call. I think it's of course set up with the expectation that Berlanga is going to pull off the victory. But it'll be interesting to see how Berlanga looks. And I'd imagine if he wins, and especially if he wins in impressive fashion, then I've heard rumblings that, of course, that could be a potential opponent for Canelo in September, which I think would be a big fight for the Mexican Puerto Rican rivalry. That being said, Berlanga, I don't think he's on that level for sure.
no, no, no. You'd expect Canal to handle him pretty comfortably. Like I say, this one looks to be set up for Berlanga to have a bit of a challenge, but ultimately should be coming through the likes of Jason Quigley if he wants to be, at the top of the super middleweight division. Just looking down this list, Anderson the card, I can see Adam Kaunaki looking like he's got a return bounce back
Yeah.
fight there after his
Oh,
three losses in a row.
so he's not done. I didn't know
Yeah, I
he was
thought.
lacing them back up.
Yeah, was it not rumblings of retirement possibly, or that was possibly just the expectation? But yeah, he had the double defeat against Hellenius, didn't he? And then he lost against Demarizian as well.
Yeah, I always felt just given his style, he was going to lose at some point once he got to a level that was on par with the top of the division, and it just so happened Robert Helenius was that guy. I know they were building him up as a potential opponent who could have faced the likes of, say, Deontay Wilder or something of that nature, which
Uh-huh.
would have been big in New York because there was a big
He's got a good
Polish contingent
following
in New
there.
York,
Yeah, yeah.
and he had a pretty solid following, or still does, I'd imagine, Kanaski. But that being said, I think that the day of or the days and thoughts of him getting to that level are kind of behind now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, if no other names jump out on the page there,
Khalil Cole, I gotta watch. Just want to mention that
okay.
Khalil Cole, he's looked great. He's a prospect. He's in that stage, but I think as long as he's on his game, he has the makeup of being someone who could be a big player there at light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight. Okay. Okay. We'll keep try and remember that name, Khalil Cole. I like that alias, Big Stepper.
AKA Big Stepper.
Big Stepper. That's a good one.
Right.
Quite unique. All right, good stuff. I think that brings us the next couple of weekends worth of action anyway. Quick shout out to Perception Music, who's come into the chat there a bit late on in the day, but thanks for stopping by. We're just getting wrapped up now for this one. Yeah, man, that was fun stream, a fun fight to watch. We'll be back in a couple of weekends time, and hopefully Alex will be back joining us. His internet issues will be sorted out. I'll have a quick shout out to Alex, who was in the chat. Boz, a stalwart, always on board as well. Thanks for stopping by. Beagle47, and everyone else that stopped by earlier, who I can't remember. For those of you that have not been over to Josh's channel, 86 Boxing, go and check that out. He and Boz do a weekly podcast as well on Sundays. They did that earlier before we started our stream, so make sure you go and check that out and subscribe to his channel. And also follow him on Twitter as well. He's at 86 Boxing, I believe. And I think that is us done for this week, Josh. It's been good having you. Thank you very much for being on board as usual. And make sure you like and subscribe. If I've not said that already, make sure you hit that button. We appreciate it. We appreciate you stopping by, and we will catch you in the not too distant future.